Is she actually a spy? Is he really a spy? What is this whole storyline?
Welcome to the Too Old or Pure Gold Movie Podcast, where Gen X and the next generation revisit movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s to see if they still hold up. In today's episode, we're discussing the 1994 action movie True Lies. I'm your host, Olen Vanderleeden, representing Gen X. Joining me today is my Gen X co-host, Mathew Stockton.
Hi, everybody.
Representing the millennials this week, we have most likely to be a spy, Sean.
Hi.
We have most likely to drive a motorbike into a swimming pool, Anthony.
Morning, guys.
That tracks.
And representing Gen Z, we have horse rights activist Nicole.
Hi.
But today's a really special episode. We've got an amazing guest joining us. He's an actor and stuntman who's been in a ton of great movies and TV shows, including today's film, True Lies. Peter Kent, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
And so for the listeners who may not know Peter Kent, Peter's probably best known as Arnold Schwarzenegger's longtime stunt double, working on some of his most iconic films ever, from The Terminator to Predator, and of course, True Lies. But Peter's way more than just the guy behind the action. He's got a career spanning decades with over 180 credits, and he's a performer in his own right. And I've definitely got a few questions for you about some of the other titles on your list, but we'll get to that. Peter's also the first Canadian inducted into the Hollywood Stuntman Hall of Fame.
Yay.
Congrats.
And we're super excited to have him here to talk about what it was like behind the scenes on this movie. Today's movie is the 1994 action movie True Lies. True Lies stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Arnold, and I cannot leave off the list, Bill Paxton. The movie is written and directed by one of the greatest, James Cameron. The tagline from the movie poster is, "When he said I do, he never said what he did."
Interesting.
That's a good one. And IMDb describes the film as a fearless globe-trotting terrorist battling secret agent has his life turned upside down when he discovers his wife might be having an affair with a used car salesman while terrorists smuggle nuclear warheads into the United States. Now, for those of you that have not seen the movie, I asked my 94-year-old dad to watch True Lies and summarize the plot.
True Lies is a fun movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as secret agent Harry Tasker. We immediately get to know him as a debonair tango dancer at a high society dance party, but in reality he is on a secret and exciting mission to deal with some nuclear terrorists while his wife believes that he has a boring job as a computer salesman. Unsurprisingly, his wife Helen truly leads a boring life and hankers for some excitement. This opens the door for used car salesman Simon to become her new friend. Get it? New friend? Harry mistrusts Helen's loyalty and arranges to interrogate her while hiding his own identity. She is made to believe that she too can be a spy and that she is to seduce a mysterious person who is actually Harry. Helen learns about Harry's true identity, after which they are captured by the real rogues, a group of nuclear terrorists. This is where the exciting part starts, involving several fights, including daredevil maneuvers. Needless to say that all our heroes survive while the bad guys are killed. So go for it and enjoy.
So what I'd like to do now is I want to just quickly ask everybody what they thought of this movie. And then, Peter, if it's okay with you, I'd love to ask you a few questions about what it was like working on this film.
Of course.
Okay, so gang, what did you think of this movie?
So I'll jump in, Olen. I've never seen it before. Liked it a lot. It's a fun movie in the way that a lot of movies don't do fun anymore. You know, you can feel the scale of this movie, but it never forgets to entertain. It's indulgent. It's absolutely ridiculous, but confidently so, which makes it great. I was a little bit dodgy because Tom Arnold's in it, not my favorite, but But the flip side of that, you have Arnie, who's in it, who's not the greatest actor in the world, but he's a genre all of his own, and he always entertains. And you have Jamie Lee Curtis, who I adore. Like I'd watch her in anything, right? So I was like pleasantly surprised. I watched it all and just thought it was a great film about relationships, really, right? Not spies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, for me, the movie is fun from start to finish. But I have a history with this movie because I saw it when it first came out, and then when it first came out on video VHS, this was the movie that we used to test new TVs. Like, if you wanted to,
Really?
if you wanted to test the latest TV with good color and good surround sound, this is the movie we plugged in. But to me, this is one of the best cast chemistry in movie history. Like, they just jive so well. And in a genre that has lots of repetition of similar stunts, this one does not. It has a lot of really kind of cool new stuff that I can't wait to talk about. Great mix of action and comedy as well. But did it translate? And
I
Yes.
the way I summarized it for myself was it's a made-for-TV movie plot with a documentary length.
Is that good or bad?
It's bad. You guys know I love Arnold, but I thought this movie was done, and then I looked at the time, and there was 53 minutes left, and I don't know what their plan was for this, but it was like 3 movies in one. It was, for me, it didn't jive. I loved Arnold. I loved some of the scenes. There were some great moments, but that summarizes it for me.
okay,
That's really interesting that you thought it was too long, because when it ended for me, I was like not wanting more, but I just like it went fast for me. I enjoyed it because I was into
well,
it.
when we get to the reviews of this movie, there's a lot of people that question whether you needed the husband-wife part of this to make it work. But we'll talk about that later. Nicole, what did you think?
I liked it more than most spy movies because I'm not a big spy movie person. It had a lot of really cool stunts. That was my favorite. That like all the spy stuff was cool and it didn't feel repetitive or boring. I think it could have done without the entire lying and tricking your wife plot. Could have just focused on the other stuff. And I agree that it was too long.
And
You mean he didn't need to weaponize the CAA to try and bang his wife?
No. How about just talk to her?
Jesus.
okay,
I
Sean.
think my wife's cheating on me. I know the solution. I'll make her cheat on me with a fake man I make up.
Sean,
A Frenchman.
Sean, what did you think?
I really enjoyed this movie. My wife and I had a good time watching it. I think we both actually struggled a little bit in the beginning. I don't know why, but as cool as some of the opening was, I felt like that's the part that dragged for me. And then once we got into the rest of the movie, I really enjoyed it. There are some questionable things perhaps that haven't aged the best, but for the most part, this was a fun ride with some fun jokes. Really good
I love the opening.
acting. I enjoyed this movie a lot. Also, I now want a Harrier jet.
You want a Harrier jet.
Yeah,
They're-
that's on my
I think
wish
they're
list.
cheap now. Okay,
Excuse me.
I want to get into this. So, Peter, before we get into this film, I just want to back up a little bit and ask you about your start in the industry. I mean, I'm fascinated by your IMDb and all of the work you've done. Do you mind to share the story of how you got into being a stuntman, and then how you met James Cameron, and how you got to be Arnold's stunt double? I mean, I think that would be a cool story.
Well, in November of 1983, I was living in Victoria, working at A&B Sound, the legendary A&B.
We must have crossed paths because that's the same era that I shopped there.
On Yates, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just got tired. The economy wasn't doing that well. I was working on commission. I wasn't making any money, and I thought, I've got nothing to keep me here. What could I do? And I looked south, and I thought, well, I've been doing I did a lot of theater acting and Shakespeare and all that stuff. And then I thought, well, why don't I go to LA? You know, which is somewhat of a naive concept, because how many people have said, oh, I'm going to go to LA and make something out of myself. And they call it the Boulevard of Broken Dreams for a reason. But anyway, that's exactly what I did. I packed up everything I had into one suitcase and my box of cassette tapes that I had and my Walkman. And I went to LA, and I landed the first night up on Hollywood Boulevard, and I went to stay in the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, which was an amazing hotel. And then the next night I realized I couldn't afford to do that because I only had about $1,800 in my pocket for whatever this venture was. And so I went to the YMCA, lived in the Y for about 6 months, and I was reaching out to every morning. I'd get up and get some change and try and make phone calls and try and find some kind of a connection. I didn't know about Variety magazine or any of the industry inside things because and I wasn't in the union, so they wouldn't have benefited me anyway. But I did eventually. Then I made a phone call to some group, and they said, "Well, we are casting." They called me back and actually left a message at the desk of the Y, and I phoned them back. And this is based on a snapshot that I had of a Polaroid, not even a real headshot. They said, "Jim Cameron has seen your photo. We're doing the background for this movie called The Terminator, and he wants you to come in and meet him for standing in for lighting." And it just so happened that the place he wanted to meet me was 3 blocks away from the Y. So without further ado, I raced over there before anybody else could. And I got in there and met him, and he said, he noticed my Canadian accent. He said, "You're from Canada?" I said, "Yeah, Vancouver." He's like, "Oh, I'm from Toronto." And we kind of chatted a bit. And then he said, "Great, sign him up." So that was initially for the lighting and just standing under the lights for Arnold as a basically a page, as a bookmark. And then he kind of turned back to me and asked if I'd ever done any stunts. And I thought, I haven't, but if I say no, maybe I don't have the other job. And I was just about broke at that point. So I just nodded and said yes. And there we go. And so, day one, I was called to the set. I went down there. I walked on set at the Department of Water and Power in downtown LA, which was the underground parking lot. We were shooting a sequence where Arnold comes through, cruising in the car, looking for Reese and Sarah, and they're sitting in the car, and he's trying to explain to her that he's from the future. And, I walk onto set, and in the corner under some lights is Arnold. And
Wow.
I'm dressed in the same wardrobe and everything that he has on, a copy of it all, of course. And I walk up to him, and he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, you're too tall." And I kind of turned around. I figured, okay, I'm fired then. And he said, "No, no, come sit down," and started talking to me and finding out where I was from and all of that stuff. And we kind of hit it off. And then, I don't know, about an hour later, Cameron came up to me and he handed me a shotgun. He said, "Get in the car, drive by, and start firing out the window." And I'm like, "Okay, I can do that." And basically, that was my initiation into it and my day one.
Nice.
And then your career took off from there. So you're obviously self-taught as a stuntman, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, I bullshitted my way through as much as I possibly could. And then it got to a point where, yeah, I got to where I had some sequences to do, and the stunt coordinator looked at me and he said, "You don't have any idea what you're doing, do you?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Okay, I better show you. And because I can't have you getting killed on my watch."
That's
And
a good
so,
call.
and then when I made it through that film, and then when we got to Commando, a fella named Bob Yerkes that did the swing across the Galleria on that banner, which the guy was only about 5'5", and I was quite prepared to do it, though I had no clue how or what it even involved. But they had called him in. He was a circus performer, and he had trained people for Circus of the Stars, and so he came in and he did it in one take and swung across the Galleria, landed on the roof of the elevator, and went down. And then he said to me, I appreciate the balls that it takes to come out and say that you want to do the gag when you don't know what you're doing, but maybe if you want, you can come out and train with me." He had a big facility out in the San Fernando Valley on Parthenia Way that was set up as a circus because he trained people for Circus of the Stars. So he had trampolines and high wire and high falls and all that stuff. And many aspiring stunt guys actually owe their careers to Bob Yerkes. A lot of guys were living on his property in trailers and stuff like that, just trying to get fill their suitcase with as many experiences as they could. So we owe Bob a lot, and God bless him.
I love that you just like kind of went, screw it. I'm gonna just like, that's a great attitude to have. Just jump in.
Oh, I love the tenacity.
Yeah.
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 Fake it till you make it. But I
Yeah.
didn't. I've been pretty athletic as a kid growing up. I did track and all that stuff, and also I was incredibly naive. I mean, I didn't even know what stunts really was, and it was just like, okay, I just came to things one at a time. Here, go do this. Okay. Here, go do this. Okay. Here, go do
Dude,
this. Okay.
as a gay man, I have to say it helped that you had a smoking hot bod back then as well.
Well, Well, I mean, it's funny because I didn't even start working out until I was like 27,
Wow.
which is crazy. That was the year I left to go to LA. So I guess the year before, and I didn't start even working out until then. And so, once I got working with Arnold,
Yeah.
it became a thing, and because we started to become friends, etc. Then he was like, "Well, Peter, come meet me at the gym here at 7 o'clock in the morning," and so I would, every
And
morning.
if anyone knows technique, it would be him in the gym. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I trained with him for the 14, 15 years that I worked with him every day.
That's great.
I didn't have any excuse to get away. Even days when I had the crap beaten out of me on set, I'd try to skulk back to the hotel and lick my wounds, and he'd be like, "Peter, we go to the gym now." And I'd be like, "You got to be kidding me, man! I can barely freaking walk here."
That's
But
fantastic.
yeah, and he'd track me down to the room if I managed to skulk off and evade him. He would find me in my hotel room and drag me out anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I find Schwarzenegger very inspiring. I mean, when he talks about grit and determination and all of that stuff, I love him. So, Peter, out of your career, what's the stunt you're most proud of?
Oh boy. Well, there's a couple, I suppose. I couldn't really define one. I mean, if it had to be actually just one, I would say it would be the tanker run in T2 across the bed of the truck. Out of the little pickup across the bed and up onto the hood and then blowing the windshield out, because all that was freehand at 60. And if I had fallen, I would have been dead. And funny enough, Jim Cameron even iterated that when we came out on DVD with the movie. There was a making of section, and they had the stunts in there, and he even mentions that. He says, "Now watch this. This is Peter. He's actually doing this. He's running freehand, no cable, no nothing, and he could have been dead at any time." He goes, "This is the most dangerous stunt I've ever done in my life, and I would never ever do this again." And I'm like, I look back at that now, I'm like, "Gee, thanks, Jim." Several years later, it comes out. But on the night, it was one of those things. I had the feeling. I mean, I knew. There was a moment there where I just kind of said to my mom, who was in Vancouver, I said out loud to the sky, I'm like, I hope I get through this and make it, because I had a moment there where I was thinking I might not.
Wow.
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 And
Then I did a 20-story wire drop down the side of the Long Beach Hilton, which had no airbag underneath it. So if the wire snaps, it goes straight to the concrete.
That's
So
terrifying.
how do you have a relationship with somebody who's stressing about you every time you go to work?
Yeah, well,
Oh my God, I'd be like, "Goodbye, honey. It might be the last time I see you while you go shoot today."
yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I didn't have a wife or a girlfriend back then. I was just pretty much my own man.
Okay, made it a bit easier, I'm sure.
So,
Yeah.
okay, next question. What's the worst you were ever hurt doing a stunt? Because it sounds like it was a little bit more the Wild West back then than it is now.
Well, you have to understand, everything we did back then was practical.
Right.
There was no there was some green screen, but it was always kept to a minimum. And especially working with Jim, he always wanted to have just as much realism as possible. And many of those films. So it would have been on the film Eraser. I got hit with a 3-ton overseas shipping container, 100 feet in the air. And it broke my collarbone and my scapula and my top 3 ribs. The doctor said, when I went to the hospital, I blacked out after they pulled me down. And when I got to the hospital, the doctor said, "You shouldn't be here. I should be viewing you in the morgue."
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Well, we're glad you survived it.
Well, me too.
We're going to get back to the movie in a second, but since we're lucky enough to have you, I do want to ask a few questions about the rest of your experience. So what is your favorite movie or show that you worked on as a stuntman or actor?
Well, I think it would have to probably be either True Lies or T2. I mean, I had a strange relationship with Jim because, we were both Canadian. I started out with him on the very first Terminator back when he really had no ego, or a minimal anyway. And so, as he progressed along, of course, his reputation as a bit of a tyrant grew, but I never, for want of a better word, tolerated that. And I think, and my mom always told me, when I first told her I was working with Arnold, she said, "Just treat him like anybody else, dear. Don't kowtow." And so basically I treated Jim the same way. Jim would say, I'm not going to drop too many expletives here, but Jim would have something to say to me. I'd be like, "F off, Jim." And the whole crew would look around and go, "Oh my God, he just told Jim to F off." And Jim would just laugh at me and he'd go, "Yeah, you too, Peter, whatever," right? And and so we just, we had a good rapport. But I think, my probably my favorite movie I think of working on all time would probably be T2. It was a lot of work though. I mean, it was brutal every day, especially the scenes like when we got out to the tanker, we got out to the steel plant. It was pretty much 6 months of just pure beating every day.
Well, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top five, and I just told the story on a
Yep.
previous podcast about T2. I was lucky enough to see it in the theater on the first day that it came out. And what was exciting about that is that we didn't know the big reveal in that the bad guy was the good guy, right?
Yeah.
And so we were surprised in the theater by that. Nobody else gets to experience that anymore in that film because everybody knows.
Yeah.
Okay, well, for the rest of you guys, I don't know if you looked at Peter's IMDb, but I'm just going to call out a couple of titles that really caught my attention. One is Melvin in Reanimator. We just did that episode, and we love that movie. This
Yeah.
this one's
That was
this one's very personal for me. Baywatch. Tell me what it was like doing Baywatch.
I actually did 3 episodes of Baywatch, and I did Baywatch Nights, the pilot. It was great because I got to work with Greg Barnett, who's the stunt coordinator, and Ronnie Rondell, who was legendary stunt coordinator. It was a fun shoot. I mean, you spent the day on the beach every day. You just, it was, it doesn't get much better than that to just be out getting paid and being on the beach and hanging out. So it was a lot of fun.
Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Another one that stood out for me is the A Team. You were on the original A Team.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Oh,
It was Mr. T was legendary. He was awesome. I can't say the same for George Papard. He was a bit of a dick, but yeah, it was still fun to work on.
that was just a fun show. I mean, that's so great. Okay, and then one more. I'm just going to call out Mathew and Anthony. If you remember in the first, so Peter, we're now 100 episodes deep in this podcast, right? We never thought we'd get this far, but in our first 10 episodes, we did Red Heat.
Oh yeah.
So that
Yeah.
I saw that in your IMDb too. That's pretty exciting. Okay, well, this podcast is about True Lies. So can you tell us what it was like working on True Lies?
It's interesting because I had a bit of a falling out with the stunt coordinator that we had at the time. And so when the movie first started, there was some disparity and argument there about if I was coming in or not and all of that. And they had already left and gone down to Miami to start shooting. And I was like, okay, I guess you guys are going to go out without me. And then all of a sudden my phone rang one morning, the next day, I guess after the day one, and it was Jim Cameron. Where the hell are you? And I was like, I don't know. You'll have to ask the coordinator. And and he's like, well, shit. And he says, okay, there's going to be a plane ticket for you, and I want you at the airport this evening. So basically, that was it. I got down there and we started work. It was, an epic scale, obviously, with the jets and all of that stuff in it. We were based out of Miami first, and then Marathon Key, which we stayed in Marathon Key for almost 4 months. So yeah, that was a bit of a sort of a, you come off work and you're staying in a luxury resort, so it doesn't get much better than that. And that was the same on Predator as well. But anyway, yeah, and it was like there was a lot of big gags in that, and a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoyed working with Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee's just phenomenal.
She's the best.
She's got such a huge heart and great sense of humor. That small black dress she had on, she kept popping out of it all the time. Every time she did, the people would be staring at her. The crew would just be like, goggling. And one day she just pulled the top straight down and stuck it out and said, "Everybody, take a look. Let's go." and then pulled it back up again and said, "Now let's move on."
I love that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great story to hear because I think we're all Jamie Lee Curtis fans here. Like she's and I think this is the height of her powers. Like I loved her in Trading Places. She's fantastic in that, but this is one of her best roles. She's so good in this.
Yeah, she had a lot of range in this. She started off as the meek housewife, and then at the end she's a freaking spy. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good character
she She's a lot of fun to work with, and and Tom Arnold was another an interesting one to say the least. You know, yeah, I don't know really what to say about that. I mean, he and Roseanne were a team at that point, right? And we had when Arnold got his Hollywood Walk of Fame plaque revealed, we had a party at the Roosevelt Hotel, and in the room there, in the big conference room, Roseanne was there with Tom, and I was like, "Wow, what a strange combination this is!" Holy crap. I mean, just like the weirdest couple you could ever imagine.
Yep.
Well, I remember Tom Arnold in this film. When I saw this movie, I'm like, oh, Tom's funny. So this
Subjective.
is the first time.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
Well, I have it in the trivia that he auditioned several times for this role, and as he did his read through with Arnold, and then as he left, he leaned into James Cameron and said, "He's not so big, I can take him." And apparently, it made James laugh, and that's why I hired him.
Yeah, I could see that.
So Peter, what stunts did you do in this film? What are your big stunts here?
Well, as I said, we had a couple of different things going on with myself, and they brought in another stunt guy. Obviously, that's why I was, kind of pushed back at the beginning. And I've worked with him before, so Bill and I kind of traded places in a few of the scenes here and there. But I did, and I don't know if you noticed anywhere, but I also played a couple of the bad guys in the sequence there when I'm driving the truck, and it gets rocketed on the freeway. That's actually me driving, speaking and screaming in faux Arabic. And also I've got like 6 different costumes on in the shootout in the warehouse when Arnold finally breaks free and all hell breaks loose and the trucks take off with the warhead. I'm actually 6 of those different bad guys that get killed out in the back beside the warehouse.
That's so funny.
I also did the big explosion rocketing the fuel truck, which was crazy. And then using the flamethrower, which Arnold's was just a close up and with a bit of a flame on it, but I was the one doing the flame, which was shooting 60 feet. And I was wearing fire resistant gloves, but my hands still got badly burned, even right through those, and my face as well. I don't know if you noticed it, or you probably wouldn't, but I was the first guy ever in the industry to wear a rubber latex Mission Impossible mask. We started doing that on Terminator 2. I had never worn it up until that point. So they had this, to make me look more like Arnold, it was kind of the sum and the difference of our two faces. And so I was wearing that, obviously, when I was doing the flamethrower stuff. And because it was latex, it just dried right out. But in fact, it did create a barrier for me to keep my forehead from blistering. But it was pretty brutal. And then when we did the explosion, Jim said to me, we only have one of this truck. We can only do this once. So I was sent off. This is like, you got to remember, it's like 2 a.m. We're night shooting. And we're in that little bay area, which is around the warehouse. And they sent me away for lunch, which you'd call lunch at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I went to the catering truck, which I'd walked about a quarter mile to get to off the set. And I was loading my plate up when suddenly I hear a scream from one of the guys' radio beside me. It's Jim. He's like, "Where the hell is Peter Kent?" Oh, no. And I just dropped the plate on the ground and ran full tilt all the way back to the harbor there. And we had 9 cameras set up on that shot. And Jim walked up to me as I was approaching, and he said, "Where have you been? You've been in Arnold's trailer, just sitting there smoking cigars and acting like a little kid?" And I said, "Jim, look who's acting like a kid now in front of their crew." And he went up on his toes, and I could see his fist clench up. So I just looked at him and I said, "Ooh. Jim, you get one and I get one." and then he looked at me and he goes, "Okay, Peter, never just do it." And I said, "Well, what do you want, Jim?" He goes, "Harry Tasker is a pro. I want a 10 out of 10 dive." And so that dive in with what the running takeoff I took, and I knew the explosion was going to be hellish, and there was chunks of steel flying. I nearly got the back of my head taken off by one of them before I hit the water. And funny enough, that harbor that I splashed into, we'd had it locked off so that any contaminants from the truck or anything would not go into the environment, and they could be skimmed off the water surface. And they also put flame bars under the water to make the water look on fire. there was also a giant barracuda trapped in there with me.
Oh my god.
And so just before I went to do the dive, I went to check my landing spot, and I looked down, and this huge big flash of silver went by, and I was like, "Son of a
Oh
bitch!"
my god.
All teeth, and and I'm like, "Okay." I threw a rock at it; it just went away and came back again. I'm like, "So I got this to deal with."
That's crazy.
So I got it in
No.
one take. It was just like getting slapped in the butt by Zeus himself, and hit the water, and all the parts of the truck were raining down. And we're talking a real truck blown into segments. They literally took that fuel truck, cut it apart with a cutting torch, and then tacked it back together again and filled it with explosives. So literally that whole truck, as you see, just disintegrated. And so, I'm standing, I don't know, 100 yards away. And I told the special effects guy, I go, where, and this was the special effects guy I had worked with a couple of times, so I trusted him. I worked on T2 with him. He was the only guy that I trusted. And I said, Tommy, where's the cutoff point for this? Where do I need to be? And he drew a line in the gravel. And I said, okay, so I can stand here. He's like, yep. And he goes, but you better get the hell out of that spot right away. Start running. So I dug in as best I could, a couple of foot chalks for myself to get started. And just as soon as I got the countdown, 3, 2, 1, action, I just pushed off as quick as I could, got to the edge of the dock, did the freaking jackknife, touched my toes, and boom. Yeah.
And it was done.
Amazing.
And it was done. Yeah.
This is fascinating to hear all these details about how the stunts are done.
I love
100%.
hearing about this because I don't think people watch a movie like this, I don't think they appreciate what goes into it, and especially on the stunt work.
Yeah. And where he comes down the rope upside down and snaps the guy's neck in the warehouse, that was me coming down the rope, And then, as I said, I played, and then of course cut to the wider angle, and I'm in there also playing the bad guy, and then driving the truck. And driving the truck was crazy because we're ripping that. It was Jim. We had a thing where it's called. You're on call as a stunt person. So if I'm not doubling him, they need a stunt guy for other things. So then I would be pressed into whatever other service was required. And so driving that truck, we had the truck ahead of me gets hit first, and then mine gets hit next. And so I have to drive through the flaming remnants of the other truck. And when I did that, I had the camera crew in the back standing with a camera on bungees, filming over my shoulder out that window through the fire and all that. And I was like, if anything happens, guys, I got to keep it on track, but we could go off the side of the bridge here into the water, ostensibly, if anything happens, if I hit the curb, because I was totally blinded by this massive sheet of flame in front of me, right? So you just have to just grip the wheel as tight and straight as you could with the steering wheel and just make it through and out the other side, but we did.
Wow.
It's amazing. I have one stunt that I liked in there that I want to ask you about, which is the motorcycle scene, jumping that into a pool. That may not have been you, but did you see how that was done?
Yeah, it was done on a bungee as well. That was a professional bike rider, and I can't remember exactly who it was. And the other thing was, funny enough, the guy riding the horse, and I have a lot of horse experience because I grew up on my great aunt and uncle's big ranch up in Clinton. And so where he's riding the horse through the pool of water there in the fountain,
Yeah.
I was actually called on to set to do something else for another unit that we had. And so the guy who did the riding for Arnold in that sequence is actually the owner of the horse. So the horse ran through that water, and as soon as he came out the other side of the pond, he slipped and went down and pitched the rider face first onto the concrete. The guy didn't even get a chance to get his hands up. He took about 20 stitches in the forehead.
Oh.
And I was like, well, I'm glad that wasn't me.
Yeah, I heard about that. I actually have a question for my mom, too. She wants to know how that scene was filmed with the horse in the elevator.
They wrote him in.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name. His last name is James. The stunt guy, and yeah, I'm trying to remember their names, but I know the faces. The stunt guy and girl that were standing in the elevator with the horse, just in case it freaked out and started kicking people. They put stunt guys in there.
yeah, that totally makes sense.
Do you remember the horse's name?
Peter, I was
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask actually if you had to do training horse. I used to ride when I was a kid, and I was like wondering if you had to learn to ride for movies, but you grew up riding, which is
Yeah,
cool.
no, I've been around horses. I've got a big horse tattoo on my arm, which they had to cover all the time with makeup when we did the movies
Oh, that's great.
Where Arnold's arms were revealed. So they used to use what was called Pax paint, which is a rubber-based, flesh-colored paint, and they'd spray it on there, and then it would stay for probably 3 or 4 days, as opposed to like grease paint that would wipe off.
Right.
But yeah, no, I've been riding for a long time, and there's a couple of movies that I've done on my IMDb there where I was actually on horseback. So, yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Well, I mean, I'm going to transition us into, so, we have to talk about the movie a little bit on this, because it's a discussion podcast. I'm going to transition us into best parts. And I will say, because we already talked about it, a chase scene on a horse, so good. Like that was so unique. And I thought that stunt was so good. And even the touch at the top when Arnold was looking like he was going to go take that jump into the pool with the horse and the horse stops.
Yes.
So well written. Guys, what did you like from this movie? To give us your best parts.
That whole horse scene was the best part of the movie for me. I loved it. Just so well done. I even looked over at my wife and I said, yes, if you're watching now, it is a horse chasing a guy, a terrorist on a Kawasaki. It's actually happening.
That had one of my favorite quotes, which was, "Make it quick, my horse is getting tired."
And then the Doberman scene in the beginning when he's running away and he just turns around and they clanks their heads together.
Yeah.
Our two large rubber Dobermans.
Were they rubber? That makes me feel better.
Yeah, they were.
I was my husband grew up with two Dobermans that look like that, and I'm so glad. I love in movies when they go back to show you that the dogs are okay. So after he did that, I'm like, no, the dogs. But then they show them get up. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, all the stunts in this movie were awesome. That was my favorite part. They made it really well done.
I think mine were the striptease. Jamie Lee Curtis is she's just so cool. Like the
And
whole,
she's
like,
beautiful.
scene
Yeah, she's beautiful.
gorgeous. And I also loved. So Bill Paxton plays this sort of like trying to win women, but whenever they confront him, he's just the little cuck, right? and when he pees himself and he says, "My dick is really tiny, it's pathetic." It's so funny. He makes such a good cuck. I was like laughing.
I'm navel lint.
That character was so good and such a nice touch, and I love Bill Paxton generally, but this was a fabulous role.
Bill, I've been friends with Bill since he played the punk with the spiked hair in the first Terminator, and I've known him for a long time. God bless him. I was so sad when he passed away. The funny part about how we met in Terminator was, Arnold grabs him and throws him backwards, and he just kind of seems to go out of frame, and then the other guy, he rips his heart out, etc. But Jim said to me, we didn't have much money on the first Terminator, obviously, and we were up at Griffith Park Observatory filming that scene where Arnold arrives, and Jim wanted Paxton to get flung backwards, and he's like, "Peter, I want you to tie a piece of rope," and this is all we had. This wasn't even like great stunt gear. I got a piece of rope from the grip truck, tied it around his belt, tied it to the handle of an old hammer, ran it through the grate of the gate behind him, and then went around the corner, and myself and another grip, when Jim called action, we just yanked on that rope as hard as we could on that hammer, and just literally yanked Paxton flying backwards. And I don't even know that he had any pads on. I can't remember now, but it winded him pretty severe. And he was like, "Holy shit, guys." And I was like, "I'm sorry, Bill." I said, "Jim told me to give her."
I love it.
No, he was such a good actor. He really was. He was like it was a smaller part, but he really made the movie.
Yeah.
A very small scene that I always remember about this film because it's just so true to real life. The low battery scene.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's funny because that young kid that played the Arabic guy with the camera and the battery, he had never done any acting before, and he was sort of hired. It was his one line, and he was really nervous on that day where he had to give a line, "Battery Aziz," right? "Battery Aziz." And so we as stunt guys, he was going around to everybody like, "How should I say this? How should I say this?" And of course, we as stunt guys were only too happy to tell him to shout it as loud as he could. "Battery Aziz! you know. And so he took that away, and he went in front of camera and screamed it at the top of his lungs. And Jim's like, "Cut! What the hell are you doing?" And
You guys
and
are
of course,
so cruel.
we're all rolling on the floor in the background. All the stunt people were like, set him up for that, and he's just kind of wall-eyeing, looking around at us, and realizing that he's suddenly been had. And Jim's like,
so
just tone it down about 5,000%.
I mean, the fact that he was probably really nervous because that was his line, he should have been nervous, probably worked well for him as well.
Yeah.
You run out of batteries while like a maniac is trying to do his Death to America speech. Right?
And all that stuff we did with the concrete and stuff, that was real, pouring real concrete. It was crazy. I was like, okay. We just,
wow.
I don't know what they did with that old warehouse at the end of the day, but yeah.
Trashed it.
Interesting. One more scene that I really liked. You got one, Nicole? You want to go?
Yeah, I really liked that whole warehouse scene. I liked Helen dropping the gun down the stairs, and it just happens to perfectly kill all of the bad guys.
Hilarious.
Actually,
so funny.
Actually, Helen, like her transformation in this movie, her whole arc, I really loved. And not to spoil best lines, but I love the part where she says, "Harry, let me handle this."
Yeah.
One more best scene I want to call out before we move on is the lamppost scene with Tom Arnold. Guy's shooting at him, and he's behind the skinny lamppost. It's like, oh. So funny. Okay.
It's a very funny scene. We have to call out everything with the harrier jet, though, because that was just fun. And I love the harrier jet, like when his daughter is on the crane, and she's like desperate, and then he shows up with the harrier jet, and she's just like, "Dad?"
I like when he first takes off in it, and Tom Arnold saying like, "Oh, he knows how to fly. This is fine. It's just like riding a bike." He's a little rusty.
He's like running into everything and hitting stuff.
And we had the Harriers we brought in from the Air Force Base down there to fly for us. It was crazy because they flew out over the ocean, and when they turned the afterburners down, straight down on the water, it cavitated the water about 40 feet. Wow. It just pushed, like the pressure was just mind blowing, even on the ocean surface. But the one that Arnold actually jumps into was a wooden mock-up.
Oh.
And it's actually, when he takes off from the ground, it's actually being picked up by a crane.
That's cool.
Oh.
That's fun.
That's a very good model, because I did not notice. I mean, I didn't think he was actually flying a harrier jet, but I didn't notice it was the fake.
Yeah.
Let's talk about worst parts. Anthony, I think I know your worst part.
Oh, is it when Tom Arnold's fucking talking about his daughter?
No.
Because I wanted to punch Tom Arnold right in the mouth. How can you talk to someone about their daughter like that? That bothered me. That probably put me off the whole movie. That's why I didn't like it as much.
Oh, okay. I was going to say you were going to say 2 hours, 21 minutes where
That's a close second, but yeah.
We've learned, Peter, our younger generation here favors 90-minute movies.
Uh-huh.
I can listen to a podcast for 4 hours. I can't sit and watch a movie for more than 120 minutes. That's my flaw.
My first worst part, misuse of government resources.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
See, but I found that hilarious because...
Well, you work for government. Of course you did.
This is normal, Sean.
Maybe that's it. But I just, it's an exaggeration on a thing that definitely happens. And it's funny thinking of it as a CIA, because they had the nice setup line early in the movie where they talk about, like, because of the urgency of this and the guy having nukes, we've been given, an unprecedented level of control, right, on some of these things. For wiretapping, I think, was the specific reference. And then he's just like, okay, we're going all out on tracking my wife. It's just so ridiculous when the helicopter comes in.
Yeah. My worst part is stalking your wife. How about ask her a question?
Okay, that was a bit problematic.
I mean, to be fair, he did ask her. He asked her directly before he stalked her.
He could have tried being honest first. I feel like he was lying a lot more.
I loved how confident he was in his work life, and then in his personal life, he's so insecure.
Yeah.
I think my worst part was that Tom Arnold was in it. He's just not. I always thought of him as having a career because of who he married. Like, I never got his humor or his acting ability.
I didn't either, but I liked him in this.
A buddy of yours or something, Peter? But I just
no, not at all. No.
Okay.
And I mean, it was we always were wondering if he was on some sort of substances on the set because of just the way he acted all the time.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at the guy going, I'm pretty darn sure, and Arnold would be like, no, no, he's not doing that anymore. He's all clean, and I was like, okay,
That's just who
I
he is. Wow.
I side with you, Peter.
yeah. I had that feeling throughout the shoot looking at him. But anyway, it is what it is. Yeah, it was a fun movie to work on. I'm pretty lucky to have had the career that I had with working with Arnold through all of those films. And
Dude, what's it like being somebody who's been in like so much like all these are all memories of my childhood. Like you've done iconic shit. Do you ever like sit down and go, "Holy crap, I did all that." You know?
it's funny, like you have to. I always say this even to my sons. I say life is like chapters. You go through these X chapters, and I went through 14 of them down there. I actually wrote a book called Stand or Fall: Autobiography of a Stuntman, which I think is out of print now. But I devoted a chapter each to each one of the films that I worked on.
Oh, I'm
And
gonna try to find it.
yeah, I think you might find used copies out there on Amazon, but I don't know that you'll find it's not in print any longer. I've been asked to reprint it, and I may at some point. I don't have I have a lot on my plate at the moment, so.
Have you
But
have you seen the movie Fall Guy yet?
I have, yeah, it was good. It was very well done, written by a stuntman.
Yeah, it was. My husband and I just watched it, and we're like, it didn't do well, but we're like, this. It was such a good movie. I thought it was really good.
I was a fan of the Lee Majors show.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was good.
yeah.
One of my worst parts was watching him walk his dog, and he was just yanking on that poor little Chihuahua's neck.
Right.
Which brings me to one of my best parts, which was Gizmo. I loved Gizmo.
Yeah.
Any scene with Gizmo was a hit.
Yeah, he had the scene when she had the dog in her lap or whatever, and then I looked at him like, that looks like a gremlin. And he's like, hey, Gizmo. Oh, that's perfect.
Perfect name. We almost adopted a Chihuahua named Gizmo once, but Dad wouldn't stop calling him Gizmo.
Oh Jesus! Leave it to your father.
Okay,
And
let's.
it made me not want to adopt that dog just because I didn't think I could deal with an entire decade of
A
Gizmo.
life of that.
Probably a wise choice.
If you can.
Let's take a quick stop at favorite lines. You guys have hit a lot of them already, but what I really liked is when she's with the used car salesman and puts her head in his lap, and Tom Arnold just says, maybe she's sleepy.
Yeah, I liked when Arnold was about to be, Harry was about to be tortured, and they said, see if you can guess his specialty, and he said, oral hygiene?
This movie has a lot of good quotes. I think my personal favorite is when he's on the truth serum and Helen asks, have you ever killed anyone? And Harry responds with, yeah, but they were all bad.
That's my number one favorite line from the movie, Sean.
Yeah, good taste.
I thought you would like, I married Rambo.
I also quite liked the I'm starting to like this guy, and Harry just stares at him with so much anger, and he's like, we still gotta kill him, that's a given.
I liked what kind of sick bitch takes the ice cube trays out of the freezer.
Oh, I got the trivia about that. You want to know the trivia on that? That line is in there because it actually happened to Tom Arnold. When Roseanne Barr left him, she took the ice cube trays
I
out of
was
the
going to
fridge.
say, that's probably what happened.
Good.
It's a real story.
I love that.
She is sick.
One of my favorite quotes was when he was talking to the horse. He said, look at me when I'm talking to you. What kind of cop are you?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay, well, I want to transition and tell you guys how this movie did. So Peter, we're going through a couple of categories here now where I talk about how the movie did and a little bit of trivia and stuff. Obviously, you're totally welcome to stay with us on that, but I want to be mindful of your time as well. So we can cover this stuff without you. We've already got these great stories from you. Guys, do you have any more questions for Peter before we cut him loose and then clean up these categories ourselves?
No, other than to say thank you for being on.
Are there any stunts that you've never done that you wanted to do?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I mean, it's funny because I'd never done really a full fire burn, and then I was a city councilor in Squamish
Oh, were you?
from 2014 to 2018, And one of my campaign promises was if I get in and we get a certain percentage of the vote, I will set myself on fire. And funny enough, we got that. I got in. We got that percentage of the vote. And so I was, bound because I had said I would do it. I will do it. So CTV was there and, the whole deal. And so we went to where they have the loggers sports ground, and we got in there and we set everything up and, got the fire suit on and the gel and all of that. And it started to pour down, just like biblical rain. And so, we had probably 200 people waiting outside in the pouring rain to watch. And they had the cameras all set up. Camera crew had been there from a couple of different news outlets for quite a while. So they lit me on fire, and I'm staggering towards and it was a decent full burn but only lasted for probably 30 seconds because of the amount of rain coming down. And funny enough, my wife opened the umbrella that she had and put it right in front of the camera of CTV News. Thus the perfect spot that they had set up and waited for all day, thus blocking their shot completely. The guy was absolutely furious. We had to. He got one of the other news outlets to give him the footage, but oh man,
that's so funny.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Peter, so I know
Thanks for being
I know you're a realtor now on the island, and we got a lot of people on the island listening to this. Do you want to plug yourself? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at kentrealestate.ca, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I've lived in Qualicum Beach here for 10 years now, almost. I love it here, but I service the entire island, literally from tip to tip now. From Ucluelet, I've sold properties up there all the way to Victoria. So I cover a little bit of everything. I'm residential sales, and I really enjoy working with people. I think I had a bad experience when I sold my place in Squamish and we left there with my realtor, and I swore I would never be like that guy. So I'm very much into communication and to speaking to my clients on a regular basis so they know what's going on, because I think, it's biggest purchase and investment in your life. And so, you want to know what's happening with it. And so I try to be the guy that's always there for my clients and reach out to them as much as I can.
Listen, Olen's always trying to get my husband and I to move to the island. So when we do, I'll hit you up.
Please do. And be happy to help.
The rest of us were 80% islanders here of this cast. Peter, thanks so much for joining us. It's so exciting to hear what went on behind the scenes. Your career is fascinating. You must be very, very proud of your career. I love some of those titles. I could probably talk to you for about 6 hours straight on your IMDb. But I just want to say that I really appreciate you taking the time to support our little family podcast here.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you being, putting it out there and asking me.
Great.
That was really awesome. Thanks for doing that. It was really
Thanks for your
cool.
insight, Peter.
So much.
You're more than welcome. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye.
He's a very cool person.
I got to tell you, I love hearing behind the scenes of these movies, like the ones that we did, the Jumanji episode and the one with the editor.
I didn't realize that there's actually real fucking danger involved.
Oh my God.
So much.
You know what I mean? Like I knew
That's
there
why
was.
I can't believe that he was just like, yeah, I'll do stunts. I don't have any experience or know what I'm doing. That's so dangerous.
When you have nothing, you want anything. What I found the most interesting was which stunts were dangerous, because, the explosion and the diving into the water, I assumed that was extremely dangerous. That just using a flamethrower didn't dawn on me at all that one would be dangerous.
Me neither.
The driving through a wall of fire, I just assumed you drive through the fire. Like, I didn't think much of it.
And the diving in the water, I just thought they would have just thrown some debris in the way. I didn't realize they actually blew up a truck. That's insane.
Yeah, that was cool. They cut it up and pieced it back together.
So let's get through the regular categories for our listeners here. So ranking, according to Box Office Mojo Worldwide, I can't believe this movie wasn't number one, but True Lies was the third biggest earner at the box office in 1984. This is the year of The Lion King, so that was the biggest earner at the box office this year with 6 times the earnings of True Lies, and was also beat by Forrest Gump, which I think is a bit of a crime, but anyhow. However, True Lies beat out everything else this year, including Speed and Pulp Fiction, so it was a banger. Schindler's List was the Oscar winner this year, and although Schindler's is a fine film, True Lies is way more fun. And this is where it gets interesting. Budget, $115 million.
That lines up.
So Terminator 2 was Cameron's first movie over 100 million, and then this one was 115 million. What do you think it did at the box office?
300.
400.
230.
I like whoever said 300.
I did.
Sean, you were closest. 378.
Boom.
Nice profit.
James Cameron, by the way, the internet says that he's ranked number 1 all time in box office, so he's the highest earning director.
Makes sense. So many good movies.
Only one award came out of this. Jamie Lee Curtis won the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Comedy for this.
You know, if anyone was going to win something, I'm glad it's her from this movie.
Oh, gosh, she was so good. Okay, Rotten Tomatoes, though. Are critics snobs, or do they appreciate a movie like this? And how much did the audience really like it? What do you guys think?
Critics gave it like a 60 and the audience gave it 72.
I'm going to go with critics 70 and audience 76.
I think critics 78, audience 87.
I'll go 75 across the board.
You guys were very, very good on this. Actually, for once, Mathew was the stinker here. So critics,
Oh, rub it in.
77% of critics said this movie was good, and 76% of audience. So Sean,
with a 3.
yeah, Mathew had a 21.
Wow.
Anthony had a 12. Sean, you nailed the audience. Too bad there's not a reward for getting it on the button, because you got the audience right on the button. You had a total score of a 7, and Nicole had a 3.
Is this my best score?
Imagine scoring a 7 and not winning. That's crazy good performance.
Crazy good.
I am
Imagine scoring a
stoked.
7 but having one right. So I had the other one.
I'm never letting this go.
Crowning jewel.
If you look at Rotten Tomatoes, Terminator and Terminator 2 are Arnold's highest ranked movies by critics, and True Lies is his 4th highest ranked film.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, this is one of those few times where I feel like those ratings are pretty much accurate.
Yep, I think it's about
I
right.
love this movie, but it's not perfect.
No, it's not. And in fact, Sean, my one feeling watching this, I love this movie. I do love this movie. But my one thought looking at it is I go, oh, it's aged a little. Like, it's not quite what it didn't 100% live up to what it was for me before.
But it's also oddly, like, it's just such an enjoyable film that the fact that it's not like perfect is just for me okay.
Yep.
Weirdly, like sometimes I just like a movie that I don't have to overanalyze. I can just sit down and enjoy it, and that's what I felt like with this movie.
I liked everything about it other than the lying to and tricking your wife part. Like he was torturing her.
Oh, can
So-
we talk?
That's marriage.
Can we talk woke or joke for a second?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really interesting how the women in the film are portrayed. Like, this is like 90s strong woman versus what it would be now, right? So the baddie woman who gets slapped twice by that guy, these days she would have like put a like grenade up his ass or something and like blown it up. I think the women were still kind of defined by the men that they were married to or working with. And it was, at the time, it was like very like, ooh, strong woman 90s. But now it's just sort of like that woman getting slapped twice really bothered me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Interesting.
But the I think it is worth a little bit of discussing the back and forth lying to, because I actually think in some ways that's some of the most interesting part of the movie.
Yeah.
Is that dynamic, because both sides, my wife and I were talking about this afterwards, because we both thought, we knew about that scene coming in, and we both thought we would hate it, and we both kind of didn't really have an issue with it. And I think it's because both sides were wrong, and the movie didn't pretend like people were right in their actions. So, the wife was cheating. Or, like it seemed like it, and kind of was emotionally cheating at the very least. He was absences. They were both problem. Like they were not good together at that point. And the movie at no point was like, what you're doing stalking her is okay. It was very clear that it wasn't okay, right? It was just a person in pain who clearly loved his wife, even though he wasn't there for her. And the end thing was interesting to me because it is, I think, the classic going about things wrong. I think Harry was trying to give her what she wanted and what she was going to Simon's character for. And I don't think he went about it well. And it was a terrible idea. But I can see, I mean, other than taking away the extremeness of movies and the CIA powers and all that, I can see a real human being trying to do right that way and doing it completely wrong.
Yeah.
Which is what I saw there.
Yeah,
Good point, Sean.
that's a really good point, Sean, because like in the end, I think the movie was less about spies and more about the relationship. Right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you know, I not to be a sob story. When I was young, my father wasn't a great provider. So one thing I realized, I had a discussion with my husband at one point in time, was like, even though it's just the two of us and then we don't have kids and stuff, I have this like this very strong innate I need to be the provider in the relationship that comes out of that. And you get so caught up in your work and trying to provide that you think you're doing what's right for the fam, but in fact it's just a misalignment of understanding what's needed at the time. And I think a little bit of that happened as well, right?
Absolutely.
You know, you make a great point, Matthew. It's always been a pet peeve of mine when, you know, movies portray the husband that's away at work all the time and too attached to his work as being the bad guy. And we know it's not healthy, but at the same time, you know, usually they're trying to provide. So, you know, I've been lucky that everybody in my life has understood, like, if I'm not there for everything, I'm trying to provide for the whole family. So, yeah, that was, Sean, very interesting points that you bring up. And by the way, thinking about all of that Jamie Lee stuff, just a really favorite moment that I didn't even write down is I just love when she's being interrogated and then she just flips and starts smashing the stool into the glass.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was great.
Why is Jamie Lee Curtis so fucking awesome?
She's just the best. We gotta get her on here.
She's beautiful. She's a great actress. She seems like from hearing Peter Kent, sounds like she's as lovely in person as she is on screen. And she just, you know, she brings you in. I think this cast is great. You know, another one I skipped for brevity, but, you know, in best parts is Arnold's stare. Like when he gives you that evil eyebrow lift, like he communicates so much with just his face. He's great too.
He's better at communicating with his face than his mouth, I think.
I think so.
I had an interesting thing with this movie where there were multiple points where I'm like, oh, Arnold is a way better actor than I thought. And also moments where I'm like, maybe he isn't. And I realized he's really bad at the, like, trying to act happy with a family. But he's really good at, like, a lot of the face emotional acting in a lot of those scenes. And I gotta admit, I did something. I went against the plan with this one a little bit because I actually really did enjoy this movie. And so I did read a little bit of trivia. And I don't know if these two are on your list, but, you know, Matthew, you mentioned your favorite scene being the striptease. And I saw two pieces of trivia in that I love and I want to make sure get shared because they're so funny to me. One is Harry dropping the tape recorder was not scripted. He actually dropped it accidentally, and it was kept in.
That's great.
And the other is Jamie Lee Curtis when she falls during the striptease. That was her idea, and she didn't tell Arnold. She told James, but not Arnold. So Arnold getting up to help her was Arnold actually getting up to help her because he thought she really did fall.
That's nice.
That's so cool. I like that.
I thought those are both really fun.
Hey,
Those are great.
Before we get to more of the trivia, I just quickly want to ask you guys, what's your favorite Arnie film?
T2. But that's kind of, I don't know. Feels like it's cheating. It's just such a
I'm
good
with
movie.
you. I'm with you. T2.
I've never seen that, I think. Wait,
I mean,
maybe
it's hard to say. I mean, you've got Terminator, Predator, Conan, Running Man, Twins, Kindergarten Cop, Eraser, Heat. Like, there's so many to pick from.
Yeah, Predator was all. I loved him in Predator.
Yeah.
Predator
probably his
is
best, like,
fantastic.
I think his best one that I've seen is probably this one, but my favorite one is Running Man because it's like funny bad.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think Running Man is funny bad, and I like that.
Well,
and I think that I kind of liked them in Twins. So bad.
I feel like one of the best things about Arnold as an actor is if you go to an Arnold movie, you know you're going to get one of two things. A genuinely awesome movie or a hilarious
Cheese.
bad movie.
Yeah, cheese, right?
Like,
Yeah.
but either way, you're
Yeah.
having a good time.
Yeah,
Agreed.
totally agree.
Fair point.
Okay, a couple of trivia points for you guys. It took Arnold 6 months to learn to tango.
Okay,
that he learned.
can we talk about the tango? So the tango, actually, I was watching. I love watching dance, right? I can't dance, but I love watching dance. Dance competitions, ballet. They were actually not doing too badly, and Jamie Lee Curtis was great at it. Way better than the first woman that he tangos with. And I thought it was the right choice. It Takes Two to Tango for the movie, for the whole line of a relationship, right? You know, that takes two to tango, takes two to do it. So I thought that was brilliant that they put specifically the tango in there.
I didn't catch that. I love that though.
I do like that as well. Mathew, you should come visit and come dancing with me. I go dancing on Tuesdays.
I will after Steve, Steve's not. I told Olen after Stevie goes away to little Stevie Heaven, Just and I are going to come out and visit you guys.
Great.
Sweet.
Okay, I'm going to keep moving this along. All three lead actors call this one of the best movie experiences of their careers.
That's great.
Woke or joke? Nicole, would you like to take this one?
Lying to your wife and assaulting her. Because kissing her when she thinks you're a stranger is an assault.
Yeah, I had a variation of that, making your wife strip for a bad guy, or so she thought it was a bad guy.
Mm-hmm. No,
I mean-
from his perspective, it's just him and his wife. From her perspective, she's being manipulated and assaulted by a stranger.
You do what you got to do.
And he
Right,
got his
guys?
ass beat for it.
Yeah. No, I love that she did that. And I actually love that she was really mad at him and not going to forgive him for all the lying. Because I was worried that she would just be like, oh, my husband, I love him. But no, she was rightfully pissed.
Yeah. Well,
I asked Justin, I'm like, what would you do if you found out that like all these jobs I've had is just a front and I'm actually a spy? He's like, you have such a big mouth. He's like, I would be completely shocked.
I wouldn't believe it. That's funny. I always think that is one of the most interesting, like how do you navigate that if you do a job like what he does? Because at what point it's one of those things where you can't tell people until you're 1,000% sure. But also, by the time you're 1,000% sure, you're almost too deep in the lie, and also you lie for a living, so it's probably it's one of those ones where it would be really hard to figure out how to handle that as a responsible person. You can't tell on the first date. Probably can't even tell. Like, think how many relationships die after a year, right? So when can you actually reveal that? It's a really rough one,
right? Or can you?
I don't
Took
think
him
you.
17 years.
I think by the time you've been married for over a decade and you have a child, maybe a good time to mention it.
No,
to
I
your
think
wife.
if you're a spy, you got to go whole hog. You can love
But
the
you could at
person,
least-
but you can't tell them.
Raw hog.
You could at least tell a similar job, like I work
Nope.
for the government.
Nope. Where's your dedication to your country?
Sean works for the government.
Yeah, and he's
Get
a
him!
spy.
Sean's a spy.
Okay, however you guys felt about this movie, I promise you there's others who liked it more or less than you. For this movie, there were 105 10-star reviews out of 508 total. So I kept it really brief, just picked a couple I liked. This movie is both the best action movie and the best marriage movie of all times.
Great.
Next one's similar. It says, this movie mixes marriage counseling with terrorism and it works.
Interesting.
It is that. That marriage would not have survived if there hadn't been the true serum incident.
A midlife crisis with missiles.
That's fun.
That describes it well. And then the last one, a horse chase through a hotel into an elevator. 10 out of 10, no notes.
I hope the horse was okay.
They're tough.
I love that horse.
Me too.
Yeah, it
The
was a
horse and
beautiful
Gizmo
horse.
were my favorite parts. Of
Good
the
old
movie.
Gizmo. Now we hear from people who liked it less, and there were only 14 people who gave this movie a 1-star review. The biggest complaints were the misogyny and the overenthusiastic U.S. patriotism. So Conan the Cribber said, I hated this movie from start to finish. I thought the humiliation of his wife was atrocious. What a double standard. He's been lying to her for 20 years, and she has coffee with another guy, so she has to sleep with a foreign agent to make up for it. Yikes.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a ooh to that point, if I'm honest, right? Like,
Yep.
And so a reviewer called Patoza, I think he might be a pervert, he calls it the worst film ever made, says check your IQ, and if it has a value below 0, you should see it. If your IQ, what's below 0? Can you have a negative IQ?
I don't think so.
I think you're dead if you have a negative IQ.
If your IQ is higher than 0, you shouldn't see it. However, some satisfaction could be found in the one scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is in her underwear and the fact that she wears short dresses.
Yeah, that's a pervert.
So the guy making fun of people for being stupid will watch the movie because there's a naked girl. Naked junkie.
Yeah, hilarious.
And then someone called Betty Davis says Jamie Lee Curtis with
Betty
her
Davis.
nude scene is really stupid. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a bad actor in this, and the director is the dumbest in the world.
He thinks that's
Wow.
a nude scene?
There was
That
no
is
nude
harsh.
scene, so I just read them, Sean. I don't edit them. Siskel and Ebert.
Can
So-
we just, sorry, just for a second. Jamie Lee Curtis, she's done a few nude scenes in movies across all the years. And Jamie Lee Curtis feels like she was always so ahead of her time because she always, in all the movies where she does it, she feels like she has her own agency and she and what Peter's telling us about how she just like pulled down her shirt to show it off. It's like, okay, let's move on. She's just so in control of herself, which I love,
It's great. She's got a confidence that's attractive.
Yeah.
Siskel and Ebert. So Ebert said the movie has stunts and special effects like he's rarely seen before. He called out Tom Arnold as a surprisingly good sidekick.
Yeah.
He said that the ending action scenes were amazing. However, it wasn't all praise. He called out the infidelity storyline as cruel, not funny, and said it slowed the movie down.
I agree.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it did. Like,
Felt like there was like
They-
3 movies pushed into one. It was a
Yeah.
lot.
they could have,
I
yeah,
agree
they
with
could have done it. Like, they could have brought her in and the relationship in a little bit differently than the infidelity thing,
Well, Ebert gave it a thumbs up. Siskel, on the other hand, was very angry about both Jamie Lee and Bill Paxton's storylines, calling them deadly boring and stupid. He gives it a thumbs down.
I totally agree. Just so much fluff. I was almost confused at one point. Like, is she actually a spy? Is he really a spy? What is this whole storyline that they've pushed in the middle of this? Like, oh, he's just a scumbag. Oh, okay.
Do you guys think this movie deserves a remake or a sequel?
You know what? I'd like to see it remade, but role reversal. The women, that Jamie Lee Curtis character, that
be
the
fun.
Arnold Schwarzenegger character is like a woman, and I said this to my husband, and he's like, "Yeah, then you just have Mr. and Mrs. Smith."
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
I mean, I think that's the point, right? The remaking this, it's a good. I enjoyed it, and I think you could actually make it better. Like, I think you could clean up a lot of the things that did not age well. But at the same time, the plot, you don't need to remake it to do that. You can just make a movie that tells similar stories.
Yeah.
Well, it was so successful you would think it had a sequel, but it didn't. But a sequel was planned quite quickly to follow this, but it was scrapped because of 9/11. James Cameron said that in this day and age, terrorism just isn't funny anymore.
I did have a feeling
Yeah.
near the end. I forgot to write it down, but I remember now that I felt like at the end they were trying to push this as like a sequel. Like they
Right.
would be a team together, and
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been a great sequel.
yeah, I probably would have liked that a little bit more. But then again, like Matthew said, it's just a movie that's been made again. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we are at the end of this long episode, but it was so fun having Peter on. Is this movie too old or pure gold?
I think it's an easy watching pure gold, not like thespian high art pure gold, but I enjoyed it.
I was one of my favorites from my youth, so I call it pure gold.
I'm conflicted because I really liked it, and after I watched it, I thought pure gold. But then the more I talk about the details of the things I didn't like, I realize how poorly they aged and how much they bothered me. So I'm kind of thinking maybe too old, even though I liked it.
Okay, that's a fair assessment.
That's fair.
I think it was too old. Well, it's not too old, but it didn't do anything for me. I did not enjoy it. There was some really funny parts and some good scenes, action scenes mostly, but the movie on the whole, I would never watch it again.
I think it's pure gold. It is not a perfect movie, but it is a fun movie that I really enjoyed watching again. And I think this is a really good I think one of the things that's important for movies that are in the pure gold category is they capture a time and a place, and I think this movie does, right?
Yeah.
It captures a tone and a style that I think it's something that would be worth people checking out.
Okay, I actually have a couple more questions. Sean, government workers using taxpayer money to get a Harrier jet, too old or pure gold?
Pure gold. If I could gain access to a Harrier jet, no. The sad truth is it's something that really happens, so you can't hide from those.
And now I just want to ask you guys, getting Peter Kent on, what did you think?
Incredible.
great.
Amazing.
I love those stories, the behind the scenes, and
Yeah, he was just. I could listen to stories like that from him all day.
Agreed.
Me too.
I'd love
And-
to see if you could get him on again to do another one of his bigger movies that he was in. And
Yeah,
some more stories.
I'd love to. We'll see. We'll get this one out, and we'll see if he's willing to do it again. I'd love to have him back on too, because
No.
I think more and more stories are going to come out.
And he's a Qualicum Beach guy. He could come and do it live in the studio.
True.
I also like B, Canadian Boy Done Well, right, which is cool, and C, I also like what he was saying about what he tells his sons about stages of life and different things, and because he's doing different things now. But he seems to have a real head on his shoulders,
And I love his tenacity. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
he was successful because he just went out and pushed for it.
And I think he's a bit of a
I'd buy a house from him.
yeah. I think he's a bit of a trendsetter too, with the whole setting yourself on fire if you want to become a politician. I think
Yeah, that's awesome.
Bring that back.
that should be a thing.
More people should do that. Agreed.
More politicians should set themselves on fire.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for doing this one. Thanks for bringing the energy. I am over the moon about being able to do this one. This is what the podcast was made for, right?
Yeah, that was a great episode.
Good discussion. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.